and we approached Barcelona with something of a different mindset, and in a track which would have murdered our tyres if we'd gone at it like we did in Imola and Monaco. We actually were a bit more ourselves.
Hi, and welcome to this Codis Race Debrief. I'm Jodie, and joining us today we have James Allison to answer your questions from the Spanish Grand Prix. James, I know you're here straight off the back of being in Barcelona. What's the team's mood at the moment after what's been quite a challenging time?
Mixed, I'd say, a little reflective. I guess from Barcelona, there were aspects of the way we approached the weekend, of the performance of the car in very hot track conditions that give us some optimism for the future. But we're all pretty stung by DNFs and having been through a triple header where we didn't score at anything like the rate we did in the opening races of the year. So hopefully good looking forward, but I wouldn't want to do those 3 races again like that.
What happened with Kimi's car? It looked like he had engine failure.
Yeah, that's true, and I think that's stuff we've said externally already. We don't know what let go in the PU yet. It's made its way back to Brixworth. They'll dismantle it, figure out what's let go, work out what they need to do as recommendations for the whole pool of race engines, not just in our team, but also in the customer teams as well. And hopefully we won't see any repeat of it in the remainder of the season.
I'm sure there's numerous tests we can now do to look at that reliability in the pool. And what is the allocation looking like for the rest of the season now? Because we're less than halfway through. Is there still plenty to play with?
It puts some pressure on the pool, so we could put in a new power unit next race weekend, suffer no penalties, because we're still below the maximum number you're allowed to use in a year without penalty. But of course, we're only a third of the way through the year, and so a bit more, and so that's going to put quite a strain on the remainder of the pool if we have to eke it out till the end of the year. So we'll be just eyeballing up how to marshal those remaining resources in a good way. But yeah, it's obviously no fun when a power unit comes out of the pool before delivering its full life.
Sure, and looking at other resources now in terms of George's car, with that incident with Max, was there a lot of damage sustained?
No, enough that we felt it, but not enough that there'll be any even the hint of it when we show up at the next track. It's just a little bit of rash from bumping into the other car.
So not too bad. So now let's look at tyre strategy. We opted to go for the soft, medium, soft. Why didn't we maybe choose the strategy more of medium, medium, soft? Was there a reason?
Well, the two were very, very similar to one another in overall lap time, and you sort of place your bets early in the weekend. You're trying to work out whether you are better off to carry more softs into qualifying, where you know they're the quicker tyre, at the expense of having fewer mediums in the race, or whether you could do what Leclerc did, which is take one fewer soft into quali, struggle a bit in quali, and he did probably lose out a little in quali as a result, but then you have 2 mediums for the race. I think actually overall, if we were to play that race weekend again, I think we wouldn't change the way we approached it, because I think that the soft performed reasonably well in the race, and having 2 mediums didn't really represent a significant advantage compared with the problem it then brings you in quali.
And you mentioned Leclerc there. Was there a reason we could see George gaining on the back end there towards the final few laps? Was there a reason why he couldn't get close enough to actually make that overtake happen?
Just not enough laps left in the race. A couple of laps more and it would have happened. But yeah, we were quicker at the end of the race, quicker in that final stint, hunting Charles down for some time. But first the safety car stymied us, and then just not enough laps after the safety car cleared up to get the job done.
I'd now like to talk about Kimi. He's had some difficult races. How is he feeling at the moment? Hopefully his spirit isn't dampened.
Well, Kimi's Kimi's young and full of all the optimism of youth, but I absolutely know that our failures in this period have taken a few chunks out of Kimi along the way. You know, two DNFs, one caused by a chassis problem, one caused by a PU problem in just 3 races. That's a pretty tough pill to swallow. Leaving that aside, and Kimi looking in at himself, he will know that he's got more to find. But in amongst that, there's been a lot of very positive work with him, and brilliant experience for him running on a very dynamic track like it was in Barcelona, with the track temperatures pushing up towards 50 degrees, and managing soft tires in those conditions. That is just putting experience into him at a very fast rate, and he was handling it pretty well.
I also want to talk about Barcelona. It's had the talking point around it of the new technical directive of that front wing. So do we now know what level of impact it had for us?
Yeah, well, I think if space aliens were watching it from afar, they would probably not have detected that a technical directive happened in Spain. It does have an effect. The fact that the wings stiffen up mean that it tends to, all other things being equal, will tend to make the car more nervous as you turn into a high-speed corner, all other things being equal. But you can mitigate that with other parts of the setup of the car, and even if you can't mitigate them fully, neither can everyone else. And so while it is less optimal as a design for the car's performance, the fact that everyone else is having to eat it as well means that the relative pecking order doesn't shift a lot.
So we've had some challenging races that have been and gone now. So what are some positives that we can take from not just this weekend, but from the Triple Heather as a whole?
Okay. Well, one of my favourite books as a kid was The World According to Garp. And the main character in that book, Garp, he bought his first house on the basis that a light aircraft had crashed into it. And so he considered the house pre-disastered, and therefore nothing bad would happen to it in the future. So you could look at these triple headers, and we've definitely been pre-disastered with out of the blue DNFs that on very mature components that we would never have expected a failure like that. So with a bit of luck, we'll have better fortune in the future. But more seriously, I think the more important thing of these 3 races were we got the first couple pretty wrong on the way that we set the car up, asked too much of the rear axle, suffered badly as a consequence, and we approached Barcelona with something of a different mindset, and in a track which would have murdered our tyres if we'd gone at it like we did in Imola and Monaco, we actually were a bit more ourselves. And so looking forward and knowing that we can do more of that and lean deeper into that in the races ahead, I think that's a good thing.
And then looking at the next race ahead with Montreal, our cars seem to perform better in that slightly cooler temperature. So what are our expectations heading into Canada?
Well, that may come towards us, of course, if it is cooler. But I think that more important than the absolute temperature is just the different nature of the challenge in Montreal. Big braking circuit, a circuit where it's relatively harder to get the front and rear axle at the right temperature relative to one another, and it's track where we've tended to find our feet relatively well in the past. So I'm looking forward to it. We've got 1 or 2 new bits to take with us, and we'll see how we get on.